Good evening. I want you to picture something. Imagine a technology invented over 5 centuries ago. A technology that is static, non-interactive, and incredibly inefficient. A technology that requires a singular focus, shutting you off from the world. One that is bulky, susceptible to damage, and requires the felling of forests to produce. In any other context, if I presented this to you as a new innovation, you'd laugh me out of the room. You'd call it obsolete, a step backward, a colossal waste of time and resources. Yet we don't laugh. We don't call it obsolete. We call it a book. And we don't just accept it, we worship it. We build temples for it called libraries, and cathedrals for it called bookstores. We fill our homes with these objects, not just to use them, but to display them, like relics. We're told from our earliest moments that the book is the key to wisdom, the foundation of intellect, the very soul of civilization. A room without books is a body without a soul, the old saying goes. Tonight, I am here to argue for the soul of a new civilization. I'm here to tell you that this reverence is not only misplaced, it's holding us back. I'm here to make a case for what many of you will consider heresy. The book is overrated, it is inefficient, and in the 21st century it is fundamentally unnecessary. This isn't an argument born of ignorance or a disdain for knowledge. On the contrary, it is an argument born from a passion for the most effective, most dynamic, and most democratic acquisition of knowledge and experience humanity has ever known. It is an argument for embracing the present, not clinging to a fetishized past. Let's begin with the most practical and undeniable flaw of the book, its staggering inefficiency. We live in a world where time is our most precious commodity, yet we champion a method of information transfer that is akin to traveling by horse and cart in an age of supersonic jets. The average adult reads at a pace of about 250 words per minute. A typical non-fiction book of 80,000 words therefore requires a commitment of over 5 hours of focused, uninterrupted attention. 5 hours! In that same time, I can watch a 2-hour brilliantly produced documentary on the same subject, which will not only present the core arguments, but enrich them with archival footage, expert interviews, and animated graphics that illuminate complex ideas in ways static texts never could. After that, I would still have 3 hours left to listen to multiple podcast discussions with leading thinkers, debating the nuances of the topic. Read the latest articles that have been published since the book went to print, and even explore an interactive simulation online. Which of these two approaches yields a richer, more current, and more deeply integrated understanding? The answer is obvious. The inefficiency isn't just about speed, it's about density. The modern non-fiction book is a product engineered to fit a commercial model. A publisher cannot sell a 30-page pamphlet for £25, even if those 30 pages contain the entirety of the author's groundbreaking idea. And so the idea must be bloated. It must be padded with endless anecdotes, repetitive explanations, and tangential histories. We're forced to wade through hundreds of pages of filler to extract a handful of key insights. We are mining for intellectual gold with a teaspoon. Contrast this with the digital world. Information is modular. You can dive as deep as you want or get a concise summary. You can read the abstract of a scientific paper, or you can click through to the full data set. You can watch a 5-minute explainer video, or you can enroll in a 12-hour university-level course on the same subject. The medium adapts to the user's needs. The book, however, makes a single arrogant demand. Take me as I am, all 350 pages of me, or leave me. It is a fundamentally user-hostile design. Furthermore, the book is a fossil. The moment it is printed, it is a snapshot of what was known at a particular point in time. It is dead text. It cannot be updated. It cannot be corrected. It cannot be debated within its own margins. A science textbook printed 5 years ago is already a relic. A history book is missing the last several chapters of history. But a digital resource? It's a living document. Wikipedia, for all its occasional flaws, is constantly being updated by a global community. Online articles can have errata appended. New discoveries can be linked and integrated in real time. The book offers a monologue fixed in ink. The digital world offers a dynamic global conversation. Why would we choose the monologue? Now the defenders of the book will retreat to their next fortress. But what about fiction? What about the magic of storytelling, the deep empathy cultivated by inhabiting another's mind? This is perhaps the most romantic and the most misleading of all myths. The novel was a revolutionary technology for its time. It was a way to simulate consciousness, to transmit experience across time and space. But to suggest it remains the pinnacle of narrative art is to ignore the last century of human creativity. Let me ask you this. When you read a description of a vast alien landscape in a science fiction novel, what is your brain doing? It is struggling to translate abstract symbols, letters, and words into a visual image. It is doing the heavy lifting, and the result is an imperfect, fuzzy approximation. Now, watch Blade Runner, or 2001: A Space Odyssey. The filmmaker, a master of visual language, presents you with a fully realized world. The image is immediate, visceral, and dense with information. It is complemented by a musical score that manipulates your emotions with surgical precision, a soundscape that immerses you completely. A great actor can convey more complex, contradictory emotion in a single glance than a novelist can in a page of prose. To argue that the novel is a superior narrative experience to the modern cinematic arts is like arguing that a charcoal sketch is superior to a high-resolution photograph. They're not the same, but one is a far higher fidelity simulation of reality than the other. High-quality TV series now offer character arcs that are longer, more complex, and more psychologically nuanced than most of the so-called great novels. A show like The Wire of Breaking Bad is a modern Dickensian epic, a sprawling examination of a social ecosystem with a cast of characters so real you feel you know them. And beyond passive viewing, we now have interactive storytelling. Narrative-driven video games placed you in the role of the protagonist. You don't just read about their moral choices, you make them. The consequences are your own. How can a book which offers a single linear path compete with that level of agency and immersion? The claim that reading fiction is the ultimate tool for building empathy feels hollow when you can literally walk in another's virtual shoes. This brings us to the third and most foundational myth, the idea that the act of reading a book is a unique and superior form of thinking. We're told it cultivates deep